In January 2022, America was in the depths of woke leftism. Joe Biden was running the country. His main focus appeared to be racial pandering. Kamala Harris was the vice president. Ketanji Brown Jackson was about to be named as the first black female Supreme Court justice. And Biden admitted these decisions were made solely based on their race and gender. And somehow everybody thought that was great. The Biden White House also had a role, or a hole, I should say, over at the Federal Reserve. They had a hole to fill. And Joe had another great opportunity to pander to the lifeblood of the Democrat Party, which, as we know, is black women. Take a listen.
I look forward in the coming weeks to nominating additional members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. My additions will bring new perspectives and new voices. I also pledge that my additions will bring new diversity to the Fed, which is much needed and long overdue in my view.
Because much more important than competence in stabilizing the American economy, of course, is diversity, or at least it was at the time. Lisa Cook was the nominee for the Fed Board of Governors. Her confirmation hearings began in February 2022. The criticisms were what you'd expect for a race-based nomination. Unqualified, lacked monetary experience, kind of important at the Fed. But Lisa Cook was also a rabid leftist. Cook had retweeted "defund the police," retweeted another Marxist tweet claiming that free speech has limits, and a tweet claiming Georgia Governor Brian Kemp wants to murder black and indigenous people of color, among many others. She's also voiced her support for reparations as well, and here was Lisa Cook in 2020 talking about President Trump.
We have seen this before, and that's why my European friends told me before Trump was elected not to make fun of what was happening, to take very seriously what was happening, because they've had recent skirmishes with fascism. They know the impact of fascism, and this guy is definitely a fascist and embraces that, and will sow divisions in this country that that will take a long time to mend.
Wonder how awful the Biden White House was. They saw that video, because you know they checked, and they said, Federal Reserve. Marxist ideals and racial extremism are not typically good qualities for a Federal Reserve board member. They're not supposed to be political at all, in fact. But the media celebrated Biden's big pick regardless.
And if confirmed, Cook would be the first black woman to serve on the Fed's board.
It would be interesting because if Lisa Cook is confirmed, she would be the first black woman to serve as a Fed governor in the Fed's over 100-year history.
If confirmed by the Senate, Cook would be the first black woman on the board of the Fed.
If confirmed, Cook would be the first black woman to serve on the Fed's board of governors.
Because how have we not had a black woman on the Federal Reserve Board? How do we miss that? But the fun stopped as the confirmation hearings began and Lisa Cook was held to account. Senator Bill Hagerty, no longer in the seat of Tennessee, skewered Cook. She had little response.
Dr. Cook, whether intentional or unintentional, it appears that you made a number of omissions in the paperwork that you submitted to this committee, and you've made several mischaracterizations of your background. Your background, although very impressive, as you covered with Senator Kennedy, doesn't seem related to the mission of the Federal Reserve. If I look at your list of publications and your speeches, it seems more like social science than it does economics and monetary policy. Could you describe for me in more detail what your economic specialty is?
I certainly am proud of my academic background. I know that I have been the target of anonymous and untrue attacks on my academic record.
Well, I'm satisfied. After the hearings ended, Senator Pat Toomey, Pennsylvania, led the charge to try and tank a very weak, racially motivated nomination to the Federal Reserve. Take a listen to this.
Professor Cook has nearly zero experience in monetary policy. The White House cites as her main qualification on U.S. monetary policy her appointment as a Chicago Fed director. That appointment was made in January of this year, 2 weeks before President Biden announced Professor Cook's nomination to be a Fed governor. Professor Cook's answers to basic questions about what tools the Fed should use and how should the Fed consider using them in order to get inflation under control, her answer was nothing more than an incomprehensible word salad. Professor Cook's history of extreme left-wing political advocacy and hostility to opposing viewpoints, the combination of which I think makes her unfit to serve on the Fed.
Yikes. In the end, not a single Republican senator voted for Lisa Cook. Not even Lindsey Graham, who voted for basically everybody that Joe Biden nominated and always lectures the president has the right to assemble his own team. Lisa Cook was too unqualified and too politically crazy for Lindsey Graham. Cook eked her way into the Fed with a tie-breaking vote cast appropriately by another totally unqualified racial hire.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative and the nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered, made, and laid upon the table, and the President...
And there was the moment right there. 2 years later, Chris Rufo did some digging as Lisa Cook was at the Federal Reserve, and in addition to her other liabilities, Lisa Cook also, we would find out, appears to be a plagiarist and an exaggerator. Consistently inflating her own credentials despite billing herself as a macroeconomist, Cook had never published a peer-reviewed macroeconomics article and had misrepresented her publication history. In a series of academic papers spanning more than a decade, Cook appears to have copied language from other scholars without proper quotation and duplicated her own work and that of co-authors in multiple academic journals without proper attribution. We're learning a lot about Lisa Cook. And after all of that, we finally get to the allegations at hand of mortgage fraud that seem to be pretty cut and dry because the signatures are right there in front of your face. And as Trump announced her firing and Lisa Cook announced she wouldn't leave, which is what's happened here in the last couple of days, she's going to barricade herself inside the Federal Reserve, apparently, a place she doesn't deserve to be in anyways. Democrats and the media are lambasting the president after everything we just showed you. And now add on mortgage fraud, they're still going to buckle down and defend this woman and lambaste the president. Take a listen.
This is crazy. This is, if I cheated on my third grade exam, should I be fired from my current job? This is completely insane.
We're getting past the point of message sending, and we are at risk now of the Fed losing its independence.
What you see is, as Ali notes, another red line that has been breached and broken in this push towards authoritarianism.
Donald Trump, who clearly has no respect for the Constitution or separation of powers, is now trying to take over the Federal Reserve Bank.
Senator Eric Schmitt joins us now to talk more about this. You were there. You voted against Lisa Cook. All the Republican senators did, even Graham. What do you make of this moment we're seeing right now? The president's getting hit with a lot of criticism for this move, but at the same time, Lisa Cook very clearly doesn't belong in that position.
Well, actually, Rob, I wasn't there yet. I would have voted no, but I got there in 2023. But she's a disaster she's a disaster of a nominee, and I can't tell you how many times these Democrats on all these stupid shows go on there and say ridiculous things about how court cases are going to turn out, and they turn out to be absolutely wrong, 100% wrong. President Trump is well within his rights based on a recent Supreme Court decision, the Trump v. Wilcox decision, that made clear after decades of uncertainty that the President of the United States has the authority under his Article II powers to remove people, especially for cause, from independent agencies like this. He did it with the NLRB earlier this year. It was upheld. It's going to be upheld here. And to further sort of bootstrap his argument and strengthen it, he cited, essentially for cause, that mortgage fraud criminal referral that's out there right now gives him more than enough authority to get rid of her at this moment in time.
Because that was my next question. It says for cause, and of course that's what everybody's going to look at, and they're going to file a lawsuit over this. And right now, this woman apparently says she's just not going to leave. But you believe that allegation is more than enough for the president to remove this woman from the position?
Yeah, I think he would have been able to do it even without the recent Wilcox decision. But the Wilcox decision makes it very clear. And it's almost like, listen, they've got a smart legal team over at the Trump 47 White House right now. Yeah. That for cause thing is specifically tailored to meet within the confines of the recent Wilcox decision. So he's going to be successful here. So all the whining that they're doing on CNN and MSNBC will be for naught, and they'll look like fools once again.
I bet there's a Biden-Obama judge out there that disagrees with you.
Well, the good news is, as they
always
make
one,
their
right?
way up here, as they make their way up through the appellate court, Supreme Court, he'll be victorious.
He'll be victorious. Okay, great. I want to take a look, if we can skip ahead one here, guys, take a listen to this from CNN.
When you look at the full range of criminal investigations, whether it's Senator Adam Schiff or New York Attorney General Tish James or Lisa Cook, all of these are political adversaries under criminal investigation. This kind of crusade against enemies is absolutely unprecedented.
So this kind of cruise is unprecedented, really, because I remember something a lot worse happening just a couple years ago. And you know what I've been saying? This is obviously retaliation. And you know what? And I know they deny it all they want. I don't care. It's clearly retaliation. It's justified. What we watched them do, what they started, was the most pitiful thing I have ever seen. What the president had to go through to get back into the White House was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And I think there's a general bloodlust out there from his supporters that, you know what, it's time to get even. Because if you let him get away with what they did to him, they're just going to do it again.
Well, it's why I wrote the book, The Last Line of Defense, How to Beat the Left in Court. That's available on Amazon right now.
And we got the picture right there.
Yeah, when I was Attorney General in Missouri, we fought back all the lawlessness from the Biden administration on the vaccine mandates. We fought back on the censorship. We fought back on the student loan debt relief scam. So if we have the courage to fight back, Rob, we can win. This book is a playbook to go do it. I think your audience will love it. But let's also be clear here. There's a difference between what's happening right now versus what happened to President Trump. They went after a political enemy to make sure he never got back to the White House, specifically because he was going to uncover all the stuff they've uncovered. So what they're trying to do right now with these cases, and I think it's going to happen with Clapper, Comey, and Brennan, is to hold the people accountable that actually weaponized our judicial system. There's a big difference between going after political enemies just because you're political enemies and holding people accountable. I think that's what's happening right now. The Bolton investigation, Rob, it's important to note, started under Biden's DOJ. They're going to have a hard time making that argument as this thing moves forward. There's a lot of unclean hands here. But as far as the Russiagate goes, I think indictments are coming, and they should be coming.
Senator Schmitt, good to see you. The new book, The Last Line of Defense. Senator, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.